See if we can get a task force like on a Saturday. Okay. We're on the air.
Hey, Susan.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Feeding him all kinds of stuff. Mashed potatoes.
Anyone want to lead in prayer tonight?
Georgia would love to, but she's
She's in Ireland.
having a good time. So
She's
I'll
in
do it if it's back to me. I'll do it.
I think it's back to you.
She's in the motherland.
Oh, sweet.
All right. I'll now call to order this meeting of the City of Whitehouse Council for tonight, March 14th, 2023. It is 6 p.m. Ms. Hargis, will you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. James Wansley,
Here.
Zach Briscoe,
Here.
Georgia Harris, John Chambers,
Here.
Michael Lowe,
Here.
and Heath Rosenstein.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. You please stand if you're able and join me in a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we gather here today as members of a community that we hold dear. We ask for your wisdom as we reflect on the history of our city, for patience and insight as we consider the matters at hand, and for courage and stewardship as we plan for the future of the city of Whitehouse. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. That's pretty solid. All right. That takes us on to item D, presentations. Are there any presentations at this time?
No, sir.
All right. Moving on to item E, community interest. Here are some items of community interest. Mrs. Black.
Mayor and council, as you all know, the farmers market has been going for 2 weeks now and will continue probably through the summer and fall. Looks like they've had a great turnout. The leadership team had a great meeting with our architects for the 109 East Main remodel yesterday, and that process continues to move along. And we're hoping at the next council meeting we should have some design documents for you all to look at. I spoke with TxDOT today about the sidewalk improvements that are supposed to go along 110 from 346 to Acker Tap. They've indicated those crews are working to finish up 2 projects in Longview before they move over here, so it's still on the list, just a little bit later than what we had originally thought. Keep Whitehouse Beautiful will be hosting their annual Don't Mess with Texas Trash Off on Saturday, April 1st, so hope to see you all there. And then I believe that, if you'll remember, a couple of weeks ago, the Youth Community Council was here talking about their spring fair. I think they've set a date now that will be May 6th. We may not be able to combine that with the fire truck push-in just because of the timing, so I wanted to go ahead and get that date in front of you.
All right. Zach and I will be manning the Public Services food truck over there at the trash off, so drop by and get a hot dog, right?
Hot dogs and Earl Campbell hot wings.
It's never too early for a hot dog. We'll start slinging them at 9 a.m. Yeah, 9 a.m. hot dog. Come and get it.
That's a good deal, man.
Bring your own eggs. Anything else from the council on the matter of community interest? All right. That takes us down to public forum. I don't see that anybody signed up. Is that correct, Ms. Hargis?
That is correct, sir.
So we'll move on into the consent agenda. There is one item on the consent agenda for your consideration. So if you don't want to move that out onto the regular agenda for consideration, then I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Make a motion to approve as presented.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. With that, the consent agenda is approved. All right, that moves us on to item H, other action items, ordinances, resolutions, and public hearings. Item number 1 is to discuss, consider, and provide direction on the next steps for the city's 2023 Transportation Alternatives application for funding of sidewalks along Acker Tap and East Acker Tap from Whitehouse High School to Highway 110, and pedestrian signals at Highway 110 and Acker Tap. Who's taking this one, Mrs. Bly?
Yes, sir.
All right, take it away.
Mayor and council, as you are all aware, we have put in a preliminary application with TxDOT for a project to install sidewalks along the portions of East Acker and Acker Tap. And I can get my map to come over.
It's not cooperating.
This is the route shown here in blue. So we've made it passed the preliminary round and are invited to submit a full application, which will be in June or July of this year. But we need to do a little bit more preliminary work to get our application in a final stage for submittal. So in talking with TxDOT, there are a couple of complications. As you all know, there's a rail crossing right here, and whether it's active or not, any construction along that railway would require a flagger to be there.
What does
At
that
about
mean?
a cost of $1,500 per day. It would be somebody to sit in a truck
That's what I figured, yeah.
and take a nap.
It used
I
to
mean,
be in.
it's-
it used to be in-
I'm gonna
We have
say
any
it's
volunteers?
And
Any
the
volunteers?
actors.
Oh, we got volunteers in the
About
audience.
$1,500
I'll do it for
a day.
$750.
That's a good gig.
Yeah.
That's a good gig, yeah.
Done.
So their recommendation was to remove that portion from the project. We were talking about the development that's currently gone on with Starbucks here. This is obviously a little bit older of a picture, but as you all know, they have sidewalks along this side of Starbucks. And so the recommendation was that we consider at the city's cost to finish the sidewalk from the Starbucks location to the other side of this railway. And that would remove the railway from the TxDOT project entirely. So it would remove our
Okay.
timing requirements. And this grant in particular is funded, there's no local match required for this grant. So it's not gonna be this plus. The only other cost that the city has to pay, which could be significant, is acquisition of right-of-way. As you all know, we have very limited right-of-way along East Acker Tap especially, and there are a number of utilities. If you drove down that roadway at all, once they were marked for this fiber project, you saw the amount of utilities on each side of the roadway. So today, staff is asking for a couple of things. One, agreement that we will install the sidewalk from the existing Starbucks sidewalk to the east side of the railway. Two, we would like to start working with someone to begin negotiations on acquiring right-of-way or easements across the impacted properties. We need to have at least some sort of verbal or written agreement in place with these property owners before we submit our application in June or July. And in my mind, this has been on our project list for some time. I think it's been a priority, and we all knew we were gonna move forward with this sidewalk project, so whether we receive the funds or not, I do think it's in the city's best interest to go ahead and pursue right-of-way and easement acquisition for the impacted property owners. My best guess is that the sidewalk route would go along the northern portion of this section of East Acker Tap, and then would switch to the southern portion of this section, because there's already existing sidewalks here.
So I don't think there's a crossing on the northern portion to get across Bascom there. So they would need to transition over to the southern portion to cross first. Yeah, the crossing is on the south.
So we could bring that sidewalk here and wrap it around this corner, and
Right.
cross here.
So they would
Oh, I
need
see.
to, they would need to
They
cross
love
from
that.
north to south before they cross
Yeah.
across that. I think about this a lot. I drive it every day.
We could add that, I can talk to them and see if we can add one here to the project.
Yeah, as long as they've got the utilities over there for it, they're usually pretty open to that. So that'd be good. It'd be good to have both, because, I mean, you might wanna cross and start going south on Bascom, or you might wanna cross and start going west on Acker Tap.
At the very least, maybe they'll repaint what's there on this section. But my concern when I was talking with the folks at TxDOT was, if we remove this portion for the railway, can we still include the pedestrian crossing at Acker Tap and 110? Because at that point, it's no longer a contiguous part of the project. They indicated that yes, that would be.
Okay.
They can.
That would be agreeable.
And we still qualify because Bascom is still a TxDOT thing. It's not going all the way to 110, but it's still going across Bascom. Does that,
Their conversation with me indicated they still considered all of that as one project, even though we're paying for a portion of
Okay.
it. They were okay with that.
Great.
Their main concern is the 3-year time span you have to expend all of the funds. And we all know how long it can take to work with the railroad to get that
oh, yeah.
kind of project done. So they seemed excited about this project. We've got quite a bit of homework to do. One other thing that we need to talk about, there is some preliminary engineering that that would be at the city's cost if we chose to move forward. We need to look at grades. If you all looked in your packet, you saw that Brandon Corp had prepared a preliminary OPCC, opinion of probable construction costs, for this project. We'd like to continue working with them. We need to determine if any retaining walls are gonna be required for some of these areas that have significant slope or grade changes. And just to make sure there aren't any other factors that need to be included with that OPCC.
Was
So-
that in this as well, that cost?
Yep. So, again, it's just kind of fleshing out what we need for that final application in June or July. And again, this is a reimbursement program, not a grant program, so the city has to fund the project up front, and then TxDOT reimburses us, which can be an important factor depending on the size of the project. In this particular case, we have plenty of fund balance to cover those costs, and we'll reimburse them as received.
What's the timeline on reimbursement? Is it as we spend money on it, or is there a cycle?
I don't know that.
Is it, I'm just asking, is it years or months?
I don't know, Mayor, I'd have to take a look at it.
Okay, either way, I think we're good. I'm glad to see those property lines the way they are. I think the last time I looked at easements on this map, something went halfway across the street on Acker Tap.
Yeah, you're right, yeah.
We're gonna need, somebody to do an awful lot of survey work and a lot of talking to these property owners,
Okay,
so.
I see.
That's really kind of the direction that staff is looking for tonight, because that's gonna be, could be a long process to get those property
Yeah.
owners on board.
I think it's good to get started on it. I mean, this area being as frequently as it's walked by kids coming out of the high school is just an accident waiting to happen. So if we can make any progress forward, I think it's in the right direction.
So the estimated, I think right now, the estimated, reimbursement, allowable reimbursement from TxDOT is gonna be right at about $750,000 based on our OPCC. And Mayor and Council, to be honest, I don't have any idea what our right-of-way and easements are gonna cost, related to this project. Like I said, we need to get somebody involved that can help us with that.
And Ms. Black, we have to have every single property owner acknowledge in the positive. They have to say yes. If one says no, we have to.
Let's just hope we can get them all to agree.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer, yeah.
Yeah, and that's one reason for wanting to go along the north side on this particular section. It's significantly fewer property owners.
Very much so.
But like I said, we'll take a look at all of it and see what our best option is.
Yeah, you got the north side, you got a steel fence there.
That's correct.
You got a property that has pretty much their brick wall close to the street, but on the south side, you've got 150-year-old trees,
Yes.
it's
Yes.
one half dozen on one side, one half dozen on the other, so.
Maybe we can add like a big old brick for each spot that we domain, I guess you should say, with their last name on it. And so that they would then feel as though they helped with the project, it's there forever. It's kind of like donating a building, putting it in someone's name. Just a suggestion down the road.
There's so
Could
and
be
so.
worthwhile.
Certainly use what we can as negotiating.
Yes.
Ms. Black, do you know at this juncture, would we have to remove that iron fence, or is there enough room presently?
So this is gonna require a significant amount of utility relocation. So I think that fence will, if we do go along the north side, would have to be relocated because of the amount of utilities in what is a very narrow space right now.
Truth.
So who will be negotiating on behalf of the city? Will this be somebody we hire or somebody within the city we
Staff is
appoint?
recommending a consultant
Okay,
to do that on our behalf.
okay, excellent. So you need direction on 2 items, is that correct here?
Just make a motion on what it says here. How about, can I make a motion?
You can make a motion.
Make a motion to direct the city manager to proceed with securing services to begin preliminary engineering review of the route of procuring services to prepare for the right-of-way acquisition and easement agreements.
All right, I have a motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. With that, the motion carries. All right, now we get to go down to item H2, discussion, consideration, and action on a request for qualifications for a Parks, Recreation, and Trails Master Plan. Or what I like to call 150 pages of good stuff. Mrs. Black.
Mayor and council, as you all know, we've had it on our list of goals for this year to do a Parks, Recreation, and Trails Master Plan, our first ever. So staff is excited to bring those statements of qualifications in front of you tonight. Susan and I did review all of the qualifications that were submitted, and we are recommending to, we are proposing that half be noted as our top submitter so that we can begin negotiations on a contract for these services. And Mr. Priestner from Half Associates is here tonight in case you have any questions.
So can you speak to what pointed staff towards that direction out of the three?
So, in doing this, Susan and I went back through the request for qualifications that was sent out, and out of the three that were received, 2 were local firms. So, we immediately looked at those 2 first. But there was a part in the request for qualifications that specifically dealt with aquatics and aquatic facilities. And unfortunately, we didn't see anything in MHS Planning and Design's qualifications that spoke to any previous work on aquatic facilities. And so that is why we made the recommendation to go with half.
So if we wind up going down that road, it seems like half would have more experience
Yes, sir.
there. Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments?
You know something I realized, we used to have a skate park in this town, didn't we?
No, we had a
Didn't we?
half pipe.
Yeah, half pipe, yeah.
Yeah, it was the Boneyard. It was across the street
What
over
about
here. Jeff Bone owned it. Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
My sister dated that guy.
Okay,
It operated without insurance for a long time. And then it stopped. He was screen printing shirts in his house just down the street.
Good story.
Yeah. Yeah, any questions from council? We can bring the representative from half up to the podium if you'd like to ask anything.
I looked through the packet. I thought it looked great. Lots of good stuff in there.
No questions, nothing right now.
So if we go down to the section where it talks about the different, and I'll give you a page number, I think it starts on page 15 of our packet. I'm not sure what page it starts on. In there, it breaks it out really well. It actually uses, have used pictures to show when the different stakeholders are gonna be communicating, kind of the schedule of how they're gonna pull the community in and get involvement from the stakeholders. It looks like the stakeholder session, the input from stakeholders is something that happens just kind of at the very beginning, towards the beginning of the process. And then as information comes in from the community, and from the survey, there's not a second stakeholder session that comes together there. So I don't know if this would be outside of if I'm just totally breaking the structure of it. But it seems like the Parks and Rec Foundation, Keep Whitehouse Beautiful, they would have some recommendations at first, but maybe after hearing feedback from the community, they could help prioritize what they put out there with what the community did, and maybe even give them ideas that they didn't even think of that they would find valuable. Let's see, this is page 25 of their packet. Yeah, the stakeholder group comes in month 2 and 3. And then we have the public open house, community survey, and we got a couple of council presentations in there as well.
We can add that as they have one back in after that.
Okay, yeah, that would be good. I think, yeah, 2 touch points from all those stakeholders, because we really want buy-in from those stakeholders. They're the ones kind of putting in the work in the community.
okay.
I'm sorry, your name is Jeff? Mark, I'm sorry. Can you approach the podium, please? And state your name and address and who you're with.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Mark Priestner, Half Associates.
1121 East Southeast, Loop 323 in Tyler. You're right on point. So the whole goal of any master plan, whether it's a comprehensive plan, a parks plan, is to really find out what your needs are. You know, that's the basic thing. So we're kind of digging down. Those initial stakeholder meetings are really to ask questions and read between the lines and find out where are the true needs. You know, a lot of times we'll start talking about baseball fields, and if you ask a baseball coach, there should be one field for every kid. You know, that's
Right.
you know, and so it's kind of really figuring out what are the true needs and start figuring out what is Whitehouse missing. So as we go through the process, you're going to have a steering committee that's kind of driving this whole thing. You're getting input from different directions. Not everybody is involved in an organized group, whether it's baseball, football, whatever. Walking for pleasure is the #1 recreation activity in the state of Texas, bar none. Those are not usually organized groups. Getting their input, getting those types of people into the fold and going through the process, that's what we want to get to. So you're absolutely on.
Okay. So is the steering committee something that happens outside of these scheduled activities? The steering
Yes.
committee just always exists?
Yeah, they always exist. They're gonna be the sounding board, so that as we go through again, buy-in is absolutely critical. If we don't have buy-in, there's no point in doing any of this. So we'll have a steering committee that's got, you know, people, a good cross-section of the community. The stakeholders are really people with a vested interest, whether they run the whole YMCA, whether it's the baseball group, the softball group, it's people with a vested interest in a particular part of the plan.
I see.
So we're getting each part of that, and then the stakeholder, or the steering committee is gonna bring all of that together with updates with you, the council, as we go along, so you know where we are and what we're looking at.
Excellent.
You also have to look at not just now, but you've got to look down 5 years, 10 years.
20 years, yeah.
You know, what do people want? What are they gonna be interested in?
Well, a lot of it, again, you get into some generalizations. You're looking at trends. You look at statewide trends. What's happening, if you go back 10 years, what are things we're doing today that weren't there 10 years ago? As we look at it, a lot of it is area planning, looking at trail corridors. How are people use trails more now than neighborhood parks, which was not the case 25 years ago. So now we're looking more at linear park systems that connect different things together. It's making things more walkable. So a lot of it, we're looking at placemaking and where are those things going, not necessarily exactly what's going in it. We can look out 5 and 10 years and say, we need X, Y, and Z in this type of park, but leaving spaces and making sure that we're always thinking ahead. These plans should be looked at every 10 years and updated. A lot of this sets you up for Parks and Wildlife funding and other source funding. But it's a good thing to keep going back and saying, okay, what have we done in the last 10 years or 5 years? And what do we still need to do? What are new trends that are coming out? What are people asking for all the time? How do we keep, because quality of life is the one thing that really drives population growth. And that's really important to look at in a growing community. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Very good. Yeah.
And I see as a part of this, you guys are capable to help identify, maybe secure grant funds that are
Yes.
available?
Yes.
What was that cool description you used? Linear parks?
Yes.
Those are,
That's pretty cool.
It's pretty neat.
describe a linear park, what does that mean?
Trail system that bumps out, maybe a little bit bigger in some areas, that may have some off-site or some other elements other than just a trail. So you may have a trail that follows a creek, or some kind of area, and then it comes out and you may have trailhead, you may have, some parking, a pavilion or something. It may not be a really big park, but it's something that falls in that linear segment that's connecting point A to point B.
So perhaps a system of walkable and rideable trails that connects the different pocket parks that are in the city.
Yeah, and the neighborhood centers too, things like the school. I mean, the thing that you're looking at with the TAP grant, that's exactly the types of things that you want to be tying into your overall park network.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, thank
All
you.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. right, we have 3 applications. We have a city recommendation you heard from Mr. Mark. At this point, if there's no further conversation, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion to direct staff to work with Half and Associates to develop a contract to create the Parks and Recreation and Trails Master Plan.
Second.
A motion from Mr. Briscoe, a second from Councilman Chambers. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. And with that, we have a plan.
Good deal.
All right, thank you, sir. We will have a plan, yes, we're starting to develop a plan. All right, that takes us to item H3, discussion, consideration, and action on amendment to the Christmas in the Park budget. Who's taking this? Mrs. Black, is this you as well?
Sir, Mayor and Council, if you all remember a couple of meetings ago, we talked about Christmas in the Park and what size ice skating rink we want. Stephanie did get an updated quote for a 40 by 60 rink with a total cost of $25,198. If you chose to stay with the 40 by 40, the total cost is $19,135.50.
Single story?
Yes.
Okay. Making sure. It's 40 by 42, it's not stacked.
I like it. Yeah, I like the larger one.
Yeah, we had a 2-car garage, pretty much. The 20 by 20 is pretty much that. And this is twice the square footage.
I
Is
tell
there a
you,
place to put it?
Yeah, it'll fit over there.
Nice.
I tell you what, it just went over better than I ever dreamed. I
Me
could
too.
not- It was a solid one.
great to
I
see.
know we said that over and over, but boy,
We need stadium seating over there just to
just
watch.
about, that's about the right truth.
That was the
Man.
funnest parts for me, is just watching people,
You're not kidding.
like brand new baby deer out there.
Just trying to walk.
We could get Bambi and have petting park.
And we will still seek sponsorships for this upcoming year as well, like we did
Okay.
last year.
Excellent. Yeah, I mean, the sponsors came through last year. They helped us prove that maybe it's something they want to keep bringing, so really excited about bringing it back. I hope the Grinch comes back. I still don't know who that person is, but I really appreciate them.
If you're watching, we want you back.
My heart grew 2 sizes that day. Okay, so we have a request for additional funding for this piece. I think that's the total of this, so if there's no further discussion or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to recommend a motion to authorize the rental of a 40 by 60 ice skating rink at the cost of $25,198 for Christmas in the Park.
Was it 40 by 60? Okay, awesome.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. With that, the motion carries. All right, let me scroll to the top of the agenda real quick. All right, and that takes us to item H4, consider future agenda items. We have a couple up here. The Cobb Finley Agreement. Can you explain that one?
Mayor and Council, as you know, we've been contracting with Cobb Finley for our fiber feasibility study and then some additional work that came out of that study. Both of those agreements were project-based, and we have been working through those. However, I think we're to the point that we need to seek an agreement with them for ongoing review services, similar to what we do for any development project where we outsource the engineering review to an engineering firm. So we've asked them to draft an agreement that would allow for that, just an hourly basis for their reviews for these projects. So that's what that is. And then again, I expect that we will have something before you for 109 East Main related to design documents. We've seen some updated site plans, and I think we've worked through some issues on parking and a few other things that we just want to make sure we get your approval on before we go too far down the path.
So Cobb Finley currently does our right-of-way, like easement for fiber. They do those reviews, but it's a part of our current project-based agreement with them?
Right.
Okay, and we're just gonna make that something that's ongoing so we can continue to
Yes.
outsource? Okay. Yeah,
Still, no deadline or no official timetable when we'll get hooked up to a new fiber. I mean, it still could be a month,
I have no idea.
no idea. You know, it's going pretty fast.
yeah, they're putting in the infrastructure And knowing how business operates, they'll wanna start
No
receiving
question.
income
No
on that.
question.
They're
Yes, sir.
They're making
Return on the dollar.
substantial investment. All right, anything else to add to the upcoming meeting agenda?
I have a comment,
Okay,
and, maybe, it's not, I don't think it'll need an agenda item. There's nobody that loves the police and fire more than Mike Lowe. I was a volunteer fireman. When I was young, I could carry a backpack, air pack, but not anymore, chief. Them days are gone, sir. And, I just wanna make sure, and I know we're doing this, but 110, 346 working radar is absolutely important, and they do a terrific job. Trust me, I know. But so is Memory Lane, Boscombe, Corey, and Hagan Road. And, you know, I just wanna make sure we're working residential areas too, cause I know I care, and I know everybody cares. Now, I do understand there's a lack of funding. I do understand. You gotta have a sworn officer. You gotta have the officer certified in radar, cause an attorney would eat his lunch, you know, in any kind of trial. But I just wanna go on the record to make sure that we're doing everything. You've got some of these guys that go 80 miles an hour on 346, and I know the police can't be there every minute. But just understand, I'm pro-police. I love our police and our fire. I just wish sometime, we probably can't, could we get funding from, the federal government on could we set up a task force every 4 months and have officers double, if they want to have overtime pay to work a Saturday, you know, because, I mean, it scares the living daylights out of me, and I'm not the only one, but, and again, it's just a wish, you know. Just an idea, you know. When I was in safety, I always made a point to come and inspect when they least knew I was gonna be there. And boy, did I catch people, you know. And, but anyway, again, I love the police, fire, they do a great job. It's just a wish. I wish we could.
I guess
You know.
maybe just his question or ask for future agenda item might be to, maybe a report on how often we're doing residential versus commercial traffic. If we take stats on that, how many times are we gunning a month?
I'll be happy to send you all an update on.
Okay, I appreciate it, you know. We just don't want anybody, we wanna make sure everything's covered, and I'm sure it is, but it would be a grateful and very appreciated, you know. And hey, long live the police and fire, we love them. We do, we really do. Thank you, Mayor, Council.
anything else for consideration for future agenda items? All right, if not, that brings us down to the executive session. We actually have an item under here tonight, so please bear with me. Pursuant to Chapter 551 Texas Government Code, the City Council reserves the right to convene into executive sessions from time to time as deemed necessary during this meeting. The City Council may convene into executive session to discuss any of the following topics: pending and contemplating litigation, or to seek the advice of the city attorney pursuant to Section 551.071, possible purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real estate pursuant to Section 551.072, personnel matters pursuant to Section 551.074, economic development negotiations pursuant to Section 551.087, and we're meeting in pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. The council will convene into executive session to discuss personnel matters regarding the quarterly review of the city manager. So we're going to actually be convening into executive session across the way. Feel free to hang around. We'll be back in what I would call shortly. The time is 6:33, and we are convening to executive session.
Thank you, sir.
You follow the suit.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Thanks for going kinda easy on the mic, gavel tonight, thank you.
Oh, George is not here, so why bother?
He has one more opportunity to break your heart.
Are we back, Mrs. Hargis?
Yes.
Okay. The time is now 7:06, and the council will convene from executive session and return to regular session. All right, coming out of executive session, there's no action or direction on the personnel matters regarding the quarterly review of the city manager. We do want to express our sincere appreciation for your leadership. It's definitely reflected in your city staff and
Yep.
all the awesome work that they do, so we really appreciate that.
Sure do.
All right, that takes us to item K, adjourn. I'll entertain a motion for that.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Councilman Rosenstein.
Second.
Second from Councilman Lowe. We are adjourned.
Thank you, Mayor.
That was a zealous motion.
Yeah, it was a long day.
He's tired.